Newsrooms in Eugene, Roseburg, and Coos Bay. Kval News at 6 starts now.
If you think remote learning is a challenge, imagine doing it while displaced by a wildfire. Well, that's the reality for many who still can't go home because of the Holiday Farm fire. Good evening, I'm David Walker. Thank you for joining us. Our Kval News crew is standing by with team coverage for you tonight. Keely McCormick is live at the University of Oregon with more information about a new spike in COVID-19. And Chief Meteorologist Josh Cozart in the Weather Center detailing those heavy winds moving into our area. But first, Kval's Olivia Young. She's here in the studio after hearing from families that have been evacuated and telling us how they're managing. Olivia?
David, the McKenzie School District has about 220 students, and the superintendent tells me at least a third of them have lost their homes in the fire. The district was already planning for distance learning, but the fire postponed the start of classes. This Monday, they'll begin the school year, even though many students and teachers are still displaced. For families in the burn zone of the Holiday Farm fire, going back to school is the first step in rebuilding.
It's going to be a long road for our little community.
The fire has destroyed hundreds of structures in the communities of Blue River and Vida. Luckily, firefighters were able to save the McKenzie Elementary and High Schools.
We did lose our football bleachers, our concession stand, a storage building. Then there's some minor damage to our bus garage.
Tompkins says about a third of McKenzie students and teachers have lost their homes to the fire. Others are unable to get back to their homes yet. Even for those who can go back, there may not be electricity or cell service, making remote learning nearly impossible. That's the case for the Acevedo family who live in McKenzie Bridge.
For us, it's a very sad thing that we can't, even if we want to go home, we cannot do school because there is no service. It's my little one.
Right now, Sandra and her family are living in a hotel in Redmond, thanks to the Red Cross.
This little town has been a very big blessing for our little family.
We're doing good.
On Monday, her 4 sons between 8 and 14 years old will all be doing schoolwork in the same hotel room.
Chromebook, computers.
Classes will be a mix of online meetings and independent work. The district is providing every student with a laptop. Tompkins was out delivering them to families in Eugene and Springfield today.
I'm hearing a lot of folks still processing a lot of loss. Hearing folks really wanting to get back to some routine. Hearing a lot of people really wanting to get back and get back into the community and start rebuilding.
Acevedo doesn't know when her family will be able to go back home and start that process.
If you break down, they will break down with you. So you have to be strong for the kids.
For now, she's trying to find a new normal. Even though the high school and elementary buildings were saved from the fire, they won't be operational this year. The superintendent tells me the county is working on a plan to use the high school as a center to provide supplies for the community. David?
All right, a lot of stories there. Thank you, Olivia. The Holiday Farm fire has not grown over the last 24 hours, and it's 27% contained now. Firefighters have been preparing for the higher winds. Fire managers say they're expecting unburned brush inside the perimeter of the fire to cause some torching of the trees. They say avoid the area and that there's no need to call 911 if you see smoke from that torching. And McKenzie Highway 126 still closed from Vida to Blue River tonight. ODOT says there are hazards along the road as crews cut trees and remove debris. And as the high winds blow in over our parched landscape today, that's just one of the latest effects from our first fall storm. Kval's Chief Meteorologist Josh Cozart joining us from the Weather Center with a closer look.
Really within the past 30 minutes, we've started to see a lot of these sustained winds start to taper back. We were seeing them sustained around 25 miles an hour out of the south-southwest, but now dropping back to about 13 in Eugene, 17 out along the coast of North Bend. And those gusts also starting to settle down, where we saw some gusts topping 40 miles an hour through the valley locations today. As far as our wind advisories go, just got a few more hours left for the Douglas County area and out and along the far eastern sections of Coos County. But thanks to that south wind, that kept temperatures well above average into the 80s through the valley, 70s found out and along the coast. Radar and satellite already starting to show a few of those isolated rain showers moving back into our area, all part of a bigger picture from this low spinning out over the Pacific Ocean. But we're talking about some healthy amounts of rainfall here within the next 24 to 48 hours. I'll have a detailed timeline of when we should see the rain start to fall coming up in my full forecast.
Well, the demand for food donations has spiked with so many people evacuated from those wildfires. Food for Lane County has been working to keep people fed even as their sites in the McKenzie Valley aren't able to operate because of the fires. Well, today they got a large donation from the LDS Church, more than 80,000 pounds of food, which makes for about 68,000 meals. Food for Lane County says the donations help people while they're in shelter and also as they get back on their feet.
As they find new places to live, they may not be in the position to have a full grocery budget at this point, and so that's where our food pantries and food system come in.
Well, Food for Lane County says people can still get donations at their pantries and their meal sites. They're also working with the Red Cross to deliver meals to evacuees wherever they may be taking shelter. Victims of the Archie Creek fire in Douglas County are getting a tremendous amount of support from their community. Kval's David Ochoa shows us what people are doing to help.
The Glide Middle School gym is filled to the brim with donations. If you can name it, they probably have it. From blankets to dog food to diapers, the community is rallying together.
We had people from Wilbur, Sutherland, Oakland, all parts of Douglas County reach out to us and say what's needed in Glide.
The Glide Strong and Glide Revitalization organizations are working together to help those affected by the fire.
We want to get people back in their homes or a stable place to live and make sure that they have clothes and food to eat.
And once the call went out, people responded.
You can see behind me just the massive amount of donations that have been made to the victims of the Archie Creek fire. And it may be hard to believe, but this is just half of what they started with.
It starts with people coming in and filling out a form about what they've lost and what they need. Then they get a shopping cart and pick out what they need. But it's not just food and clothes. They're helping people get their affairs in order as well.
If they have a total loss, we're able to register them with FEMA. If they've lost their vital record, we're able to order birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, apply for a new social security card. We're helping facilitate that so that the cost of that doesn't come out of their pocket.
They say the next step is helping people rebuild. Reporting in Douglas County, I'm David Ochoa.
Big effort there in Douglas County. Doty says the community effort extends well beyond the Glide community. She says people as far away as Phoenix, Arizona are sending donations to help. The Archie Creek fire is burning more than 130,000 acres and is 52% contained tonight. New at 6, a Eugene woman speaks out after her car was vandalized overnight with racial graffiti. Well, when you look at Felicia Dieter's car, you can see it's covered with vulgar paint markings and a reference to Black Lives Matter. A couple of her car tires also slashed. Felicia is black and says she was shocked to find the damage as she was leaving for work this morning. She says she's still processing it all, but thinks it's sad that people have to worry about being targeted like this.
You never do think it's going to happen to you, and I'm sadly used to the name calling and the things that people will say to you, but I've never actually had anything messed up or I just don't know.
And Felicia says she hasn't taken part in any BLM demonstrations and is a very private person. Eugene police are investigating the case. Tonight at 11, her first reaction to seeing the graffiti. Students at the University of Oregon haven't started classes yet, but the school is already seeing a rise in COVID-19 cases. Kval's Keely McCormick is on campus tonight at the U of O. Keely, where are these U of O cases being linked?
Yeah, David, there was a spike in cases overnight last night, 48 new cases in Lane County and 15 at U of O. But these new cases are not coming from the freshman move-in. Only one student moving into the dorms tested positive, and they are now isolating. Lane County Public Health says that it's group gatherings that are what are causing the numbers to rise.
Jalen Serpa is a sophomore here at U of O, and she lived in town over the summer.
It went from like so dead and there was no one here.
Compared to now.
Just like the streets are full of cars, people are walking around.
She said she expected a spike in cases with students coming back to campus for the sole reason of more people leads to more cases. But Jason Davis, the Lane County Health PIO, says it's behavior to blame.
These small group activities, those cases are reaching out beyond those friend groups and beyond those social circles, and they're spreading to other areas.
Those groups are students reuniting after the summer apart, but Davis stresses the outcome can be harmful to the entire community.
15 seems like a small number, but when each case potentially causes 3, 4, 5 new cases, that's a big number.
The university has several new rules in place to slow the spread. Serpa grabbed a coffee and accidentally sat inside today.
The janitor came up and he was like, "You can't eat in here." And I was literally like, oh my, like it didn't even cross my mind. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like there's so many little things like that that are going to change just due to COVID.
She said this new normal will take some getting used to. While students are adjusting, Davis says he has faith in the young people.
I think that they are our future and they can do great work. I think it's just a matter of helping them understand how their individual actions affect the entire community.
He explains that way to help is to avoid group gatherings, and remember, it can impact the entire community.
Classes will start up next week. Until then, students moving into on-campus housing will continue to get tested before being allowed to move in. Those who test positive will be moved to the isolation dorm. Live at University of Oregon, I'm Keely McCormick. Back to you.
All right, Keely, thank you. Next here on Kval News, the latest on efforts to stop the coronavirus pandemic.